Nighthawk Gold in the news today. Nighthawk trades as NHK on the Toronto Stock Exchange, MIMZF, and the OTCQX in the States as they substantially increase their indicated resource and provide an outlook for exploration. Here to do that, CEO Keyvan Salehi. Keyvan, always appreciate the time and update. Well, substantially increasing your indicated resource is always a good thing. Why don't you run through the highlights here for investors?
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, big day for us, obviously, with the latest resource numbers being published. The last time we updated our resource, obviously, was July of 2020. And since then, there has been some changes. We've obviously had some drilling done that's worked its way into the database. And we thought it was important for us to update our numbers at the start of the year, as most other companies do. So that's one key takeaway from this news release, that we will be updating our mineral resources on an annual basis around this time. Certainly, it's a big and exciting day for us when you look at the global resource base. And if I'm allowed to combine the indicated and inferred resources together, we essentially grew our MRE by about 50% to plus 3 million ounces across all categories. And I think that's a fairly remarkable achievement, especially when you layer on top of that the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic had a major impact on our operations and exploration plans in 2020. In addition to that, we've seen a lot of delays, again, related to COVID-19 with respect to getting our assays back. So in essence, this latest resource is on the back of around 11,000 meters of drilling. So the upgrade in the resources, the additional ounces are, from my perspective, are actually very successful, just with the limited amount of drilling and the data that we actually could manage to get into our database. So so we're all very excited about that. I think, again, if you combine all the indicated and inferred category resources, we're now sitting at about 3+ million ounces and a 50% growth in overall global resource base, which I think is a very good starting point for us as we start looking at our 2021 and 2022 plans of aggressively drilling our land position in an effort to eventually advance these projects towards a PEA. Look, I won't go through all the details of the latest update with everybody. I mean, it's all in the press release and people can read for themselves. But I think the key takeaways from this is, I mentioned this substantial growth to our global resource base. Most importantly to us, and what's really exciting for our story, and something that you and I have spoken about in terms of changing our strategy and perception with respect to how we look at our assets, is the in-pit resources that we grew by about 71% in the indicated category. That's something that is of significance for us, and that would be one of the key takeaways for all the investors, anybody that really follows the Nighthawk story going forward. The changes, obviously the market and the conditions have changed, and I think another important thing that I should highlight for everybody is that we did make some changes with respect to the input assumptions and the parameters that we look at in terms of interpreting our resource models. Obviously, since the last time we published the resources, gold price environment has changed, so we've adjusted our gold price assumptions to about $1,650 an ounce. In addition to that, coming into this story with myself and Richard Roy at the start of the year, there were some other assumptions that were built into the model in the last resource update in July of last year. With respect to some of the cost per ton of mining when the in-pit constrained resources were interpreted, that we weren't comfortable with, and we thought that some of those numbers were really conservative, so we've kind of adjusted those as well. And if I were to summarize all of this, the overall increase in our resource base, about more than 50% is based on the back of the drilling that was done in 2020. And the remainder is, essentially the changes that we've made to our input assumptions that were the basis for the latest update.
Well, certainly a lot going on there. And again, investors should pay attention to the details on the release. So before I let you go here, Keyvan, what's the next step for Nighthawk then?
So yeah, a great question. We've obviously talked about some of the targets that we would like to look at over the next 2 years. That's a big part of the press release as well, based on the work that's been done, that's gone into coming up with the latest resource update. Again, something that you and I have spoke about previously, and something that we've talked about to most of our investors that follow our story is, how do we go about, changing perception about the way we look at our assets? If you look at, again, the overall global resource base, we have about 2 million ounces of resources in an underground part of the resource, and another close to 1 million ounces, again, if I could combine the indicated and inferred category resources together, we're sitting at about, just under 1 million ounces. Our new our new vision, our new strategy, looking at this is looking for ounces that are near surface that can be mined via an open pit scenario, and anything between 1.5 to 2.5 gram per ton material, I think would make a significant it would be very attractive for us when we look at a PEA down the road over the next 2 years. So that's really that's what we're looking at over the next few months.
Okay, appreciate the update. As always, again, that was CEO Keyvan Salehi, Nighthawk Gold, NHK, Toronto Stock Exchange, MIMZF, OTCQX in the States. And again, appreciate it, and we'll look forward to checking back in when you have some more news for us, Keyvan.
Thanks for having me, Rob.